Hello, we are the world. Part
We're
2.
gonna do that every time.
Part 2. This one hopefully will be our shortest, but this is I'm gonna call this one Why. Our last video was snubs, right?
Yes.
So this is the opposite. People that were included,
Right.
and you're wondering why.
Yes. I don't know if I mentioned. No, I didn't mention in the video, but off camera, I'm like, Dan Aykroyd, why?
Yes, so the snubs that we just mentioned, they should have replaced all these people.
Yeah.
Okay, so just so you know, I mean, it's going to sound like I'm picking on people, but there is an equal amount of black people and white people.
Okay.
And I was asking for Prince and Kool and the Gang to be in it, so it's not like I was discriminating. But it is a fact that in the 80s, most artists were white, unless you listen to the R&B channel. But then, even then, it's like, how do I rank that? I don't know. I don't listen to that music.
So you watched the documentary? I
didn't watch it. No, I just knew it came out.
Okay.
I
listened, or I read Wikipedia.
Yes.
Waylon Jennings, is that who you said?
Right.
He came back. He actually did sing it.
Really?
That's what it says.
Okay, I didn't know that.
That's what it says in Wikipedia.
I heard he exited. I didn't hear
He
it.
did, and then he came back.
I didn't, but when you see the video,
Yeah.
I don't see him in it.
Right.
So, okay, but let's go through, let's start with the white people and who should be booted. You'll appreciate that, right? Okay, let's start. Now, 13 names, but obviously the first name, he's the organizer. But, was he a singer? Bob Geldof, was he a singer?
No. The only thing I remember him in was The Wall, right?
He
plays
is
The
Pink.
Wall.
He played Pink, right? So maybe he was. I think I heard he was a singer. Didn't put anything out that I ever heard of.
Yeah.
And but he's British, so he was connected to Pink Floyd. That's British. These are all American people. How is he the organizer of the American?
Because he had
around the world?
connections.
Yeah. So obviously he's not getting the boot because he organized the thing. But it's still on.
Did it show
Why
him
is he
singing?
involved in it?
Did it show him singing though?
I don't know.
So you can't really boot him,
No, you can't.
and you can't even say why because he organized it. So
Right.
that's why.
Yes, I know. But it's just like, it's weird that he included his name as the singer, so I don't remember seeing him.
Yes.
Okay, Quincy Jones obviously is the composer. He didn't really sing, he was just composing it. But he's probably the reason that a lot of these names are on it, even though we're questioning it. So, let's go through the white people first. Paul Simon. Why was he asked? Now, just so you know, the reference that I'm going by is how big was their 1984, right? You're thinking, like Janet Jackson, what have you done for me lately? Yeah, if you go back to the past, you're grabbing all sorts of artists from the
Yeah.
past. But if you like, what has he even done? Why are you bringing him in? Paul Simon did nothing in 1984. He did put out an album, but it was a commercial failure.
Yeah.
Art Garfunkel was actually supposed to be on it, and then he got moved because it seemed like really personal to Carrie Fisher,
Okay.
and then he didn't like that, which we're never going to do an album again. Now Paul Simon did go do Graceland soon after. Why is he on it?
Right.
Okay,
He did have some solo hits, but yeah, nothing I would.
but his last hit was like in the early '80s. So, Hearts and Bones was the album.
Yeah, the only one I would know before Graceland really is 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover,
Right.
and he only says like 6 ways.
I know.
They're not really ways; they're just
No.
rhymes with names.
Correct. Yes. All right. So back to the white people. Kim Carnes. I think I mentioned this last time. Where was Stevie Nicks? Instead, we got this smoking, smoker voiced lady whose biggest hit was Betty Davis Eyes in 1981,
Right.
4 years earlier. Now, she did get Grammy nominated for her album called Invisible Hands this year, but only one top 40 hit.
Right.
And her album was called Cafe Racers. Invisible Hands was the song. And she was on the Flashdance soundtrack, but her song was unreleased. So, she's riding Betty Davis coattails. And again, put Stevie Nicks in there, you have to take Lindsey Buckingham
Yes.
out. Which leads me to that question. Why Lindsey Buckingham out of the two?
And if you're gonna get Lindsey Buckingham, shouldn't he have been playing guitar for it?
Right? Yeah. Did we all over the world have guitar?
No, it's orchestra, I think.
Yeah.
Music in the background.
So okay, so here's your two. Lindsey Buckingham. The only thing he put out in 1984 was "Go Insane."
Yeah, for
Stevie Nicks put out
mirror
her.
song. Yeah.
Stevie Nicks put out her "Stand Back" album, and it had at least 3 hits.
When was Vacation released?
1983. The year before.
Okay.
So he had 1 hit each year,
Yeah,
previous year. But choose Stevie Nicks, then you boot Kim Carnes and Lindsey Buckingham.
And she had a lot more hits, I'm sure.
Yeah, so
Stand Back, Talk to Me, As You're 17.
unless she said no, and then you go grab both those two.
There was a lot turned away. Also, it said in the article they turned away
People who wanted to be on it.
I think they had like 50 people. Well, the thing is, they recorded it the night of an awards show.
Okay.
That's why all these singers were gathered sort of together
Okay,
in the same
that
area.
makes sense.
Because they were close to the studio because they're accepting.
So maybe
awards.
some of these people weren't even nearby. Okay.
Yeah.
Bob Dylan, similar to Paul Simon. Now Paul Simon, I wouldn't say his voice is totally recognizable to me. Bob Dylan, you recognize his voice. Is that the only reason you're bringing him in?
He's probably the biggest star there, I would say. No?
Maybe not.
I mean, for legend status.
Legend status, but is his stuff any good?
Oh well, yeah, we're not big fans. I know that.
No, and he's got a awful voice, and nasally, and so what did he do in 1984? He had no hits since the 70s. He did release a album titled "Infidels" and a video.
Yeah.
I forget what the video is called.
I would think his stuff is like the Grateful Dead. People put it out and they had a big following and they'd buy his stuff. Like kind of like us and Rush would
Yeah.
probably be what it's like.
Yeah. Now maybe that's the reason. He got invited in Traveling Wilburys.
Yeah.
Maybe this should have been done after the Wilburys. I don't know. So Dan Aykroyd, what did he do in 1984?
I couldn't tell you what movies were just...
Ghostbusters, the
Okay,
biggest movie.
okay.
Is that the reason he was pulled in?
No,
And
I'm
he had-
sure he was friends with somebody.
And he had a cameo in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Right. And escorted Indy to the plane.
Now we know he sang, but not as Dan Aykroyd. What was his character's name? Jake Elwood.
Oh, yeah.
Should he have been in that outfit when he was singing?
He was Elwood.
And by this time, John Belushi died, right? Before this? Yeah. So, would you have put him as a blues brother?
He should have been wearing that costume.
That's right. Yes, but anyways, if you're gonna put, why movie stars? Speaking of movie stars, Bette Midler. Why was she in it? Now, later she was in Ruthless People the year afterwards. But the only thing she did the previous year, Beast of Burden,
Okay.
with Mick Jagger.
Yeah, she had just she'd gone. Her one hit had gone really high, but that wasn't the previous year. But The Rose, that was
1981 too, so similar to Kim Carnes.
yeah, that was
Or 1980. The movie came out in 79, her big hit in 1980. And I agree, but again, we're talking about what have you done
And
for me
she
lately.
probably got a lot bigger after USA.
She did. She had Wind Beneath My Wings,
Right.
From a Distance. She was in Ruthless People,
and Beaches, all
Down
those
and Out in
movies.
Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
So yeah, she did get big. And if you're gonna do that, where's Barbara Streisand?
Barbara Streisand was too big for the.
She was too big for this?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that concludes our white list.
Now onto the blacklist. Wait, that's which is funny because that's
That was last video.
blacklisted is what happened to the
snubs.
All right, now onto the blacklist with James Spader.
We did the blacklist in our last video. All the snubs. Actually, they weren't blacklisted. But,
Prince. Now Prince was not in it, and it's because he wanted to do "We Are the World" all by himself.
and he could have, just
He
like
didn't
Michael
wanna-
Jackson.
But no, he did. There was a reason he didn't do it. But he did give them a song for the album.
Oh, okay. Do you know the song title?
I don't know.
Okay. All right. Speaking of Prince, the first one I'll mention from this list. Actually, you know what? She's not on this list. Sheila. I think she was pulled in because she knew Prince,
Okay.
and they were trying to get Prince
Yeah.
through her, and she actually resented that.
Because she was on
But now she's glad she was a part of it.
1999. I knew she was that voice, the woman.
Okay, but let's go to this first. First name. Some of these names are like they were the black artists you heard on the radio, but you couldn't tell which one was which at the time. James Ingram. Now his albums were produced by Quincy Jones, so that's why he's here.
Right.
He was nominated for some R&B Grammys the past year, so I'll give him that.
Yeah.
Him and Kim Carnes also did a trio song with Kenny Rogers called What About Me the previous year. So all three of them were pulled in, maybe specifically from that song. Maybe Quincy Jones produced that song. But again, his famous song that we know, Yamo Be There. 1983, not 1984. And that was probably the biggest hit amongst the previous years.
Yeah.
So, why is he here? He's friends. Okay, Dionne Warwick. She had no hits. She had one slight hit in 1983. She actually did release a flop album in 1985 in January, 2 months before We Are the World.
So you're just in general saying if they didn't have a hit the previous year, they
Yes,
shouldn't be on.
correct.
Doesn't matter how big their status was.
That's what I say. Show me what you did last year. That's what I'm basically saying. Don't put logic into it. We don't do that around here. Now, another video that would be interesting is what they do after this song.
Right,
Because
yeah.
you know what she had?
What?
Her number one song, Friends.
Okay.
With Elton John.
Stevie Wonder.
Yes. So a lot of these people actually got famous later, like Paul
Right,
Simon.
right.
Okay. Al Jarreau was in this. He actually had a line. He had no hits.
He was he sung Moonlighting song, right?
In 1987.
Okay.
Yeah, so he soon did Moonlighting. He did have a Grammy nomination for his album he put out called High Crime, but 0 hits on that album. So it's one of those, we really love his album, critics do. And then the public's like, nah, put that back on the shelf. We don't buy that. Okay, Ray Charles. You know what he did the previous
I'll
year?
tell you what he did on the song. He got the most airtime, I would say. Him, and then
Bruce.
number 2 would be Bruce Springsteen.
Yes. Now, as interesting as this sounds, you know what he released the previous year?
What?
He did have a number one album on the country charts.
Okay.
Ray Charles.
Yeah.
Called Friendship, and I think every song on the album, he was a duet with a country artist at that time.
When was
Ray Charles doing
Georgia? Georgia.
well, all his songs.
What year
All
was
of his
that?
songs were early 70s or 60s.
Okay.
So, yeah, most of his hits way before. Now, you know what he did after this, right?
Yeah.
Baby Grand.
With Billy Joel.
Harry Belafonte. Now, you can't have Al Jarreau and not have Harry Belafonte, right? Okay, let's get some obscure names. He had no hits, 0 hits, since the 60s.
Damn.
and he did not go on to do Moonlighting like Al Jarreau. So
Yeah.
once he was done, he's obscure. But you go just like, yeah, Harry Bell sounds familiar. Yeah, he actually was in movies though.
Yeah, I know.
I saw this movie called The World, the Flesh, and the Devil.
Okay.
And he was in it. It's basically one of those movies where there's only 3 people on the planet and they all find each other. And then you have tension among those 3 people. And lastly, Smokey Robinson. Now again, famous names, but like, what did you do really recently? His only hit came from a Rick James album the previous year. So he didn't sing it, Rick James did. He just sang on it with him, called Ebony Eyes. And I can't remember, was he in a group?
Smokey Robinson?
Yes.
He might have been.
Or was he by himself?
He might have been in a group.
Yeah.
I think he was.
So, again, I would have taken any of the Cool. What was the album they had, Emergency? That album came out the previous year. They had a whole slew of hits. I would have taken any of those guys over these 6. These 6 black guys. So there's 6 white, 6 black. Take them off. Oh, I can't go back and take them off. But why? Why'd you snub those people from the previous video and put these people on instead? So that's my video. There's your why were they on it. I hope you enjoyed that. I did. Anyways, our last video for We Are the World is we're gonna rank the people who actually sang on it.
Who had the best previous year?
Yes. So that'll be our next video. See you then. Bye.
On to the Blacklist. The movie with, or the TV show with, what's the guy's name?
Steve Buscemi?
It's not Andrew McCarthy. It's the other guy that, he played Ultron. What was that?
Oh, golly, James.
Is it James?
It's James.
Alright, we're gonna stop.
Darn it.
What's his name?